Tracy Amigos, former football coaches turned insurance agents to talk about Texas Aggie football.
Mark, if you go after the middle of December, like anywhere between middle of December to middle of February, let me know because maybe we can work a ski trip into that deal.
I don't want to ski.
Oh gosh, Mark, skiing's a blast.
No, I want to take a 300 Weatherby and kill an elk.
Well, that'd be fun too.
Way more fun than skiing.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, so today, welcome to Trace Amigos for round 3, 4, whatever we're on here. I think we're on game 4, reviewing game 3, going into game 4. Like I said last week, it's a lot funner to come on here after a win, especially your first SEC win, first road win since 2021. That is absolutely awful and great at the same time. So glad to see Elko got that turned around quick. He had one shot at a road game, and he's won it. So he got that turned around immediately. Glad to see that. My name's Matt Fomer. I spent 10 years in the coaching world, high school coach. It started out at Willis, down north Conroe. Luckily enough to spend some years in Carthage. Before I got out of coaching, opened up my agency here in Hallsville, have a Rollo agency here in Hallsville. And just wanted to come on here and mention if you're getting your renewals on your homes and your property, heads up, you may want to look at those deductibles because these companies are changing them constantly. And the time to find out your deductible is not at claim time. So that's my recommendation for the week. Make sure you're checking those as your policies renew. So, Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Mark Brown. I spent 20 years in the high school coaching field. Also did some work as a student coach at the University of North Texas. Before that, I have an insurance agency here in Carthage, Texas, the home of champions, 9-time state champion Carthage Bulldogs. I don't know if we mentioned that, so I'll make sure I mention that. In the insurance world, I'll just say this. There's a lot of experts after the game on what goes on because people really look in this stuff very carefully. And right now, insurance companies are looking at everything they have on their books, whether it's your home, your auto, who's on your auto, who the drivers are, whether it's commercial. They're really dialing down and looking at what you're doing and making sure these policies are written correctly. So now's the time to have your policies reviewed. Make sure that your policies really cover what they cover. I spent some time this morning with a client that has a different carrier, and I saw what the account manager wrote on there, and that does not match the wording in what's actually in the policy. So it's good to have somebody look at your policy and say, look, this is what it says, this is what it covers. And again, like Matt said, it is not at claim time that you want to find that information out. So bring it to us, bring it to a Rollo agent. Let us look at it. That's what we do. We as physicality, as we say, it travels well in the SEC. Customer service travels well in the insurance business, and nobody does that better than Rollo.
All right, Seth, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Seth Brennan. Coached high school football up here in Northeast Texas for 16 years, various schools, never at quite a caliber of a place like Carthage, but had a lot of fun, worked with some great people, coached some great kids. Now I coach flag football and watch film, so I'm still coaching and watching film, but the film is a lot more fun to watch now because I have no control over the outcome. It's just
Wait, you're not watching film of flag football, are you?
No.
Okay.
Not yet. Okay. So, no, just watching college film. I've been doing that for a long time. Or I really didn't have much time to do it when I was having to watch real film as a coach. But now the last 2 years out of coaching has been a lot of fun to go back and watch film. And I have almost to tie this in with something I saw. I watched the Coach Elko presser this morning, or I put it up and let it play while I was working. It was a busy morning. But I did pause and listen to this one part where he talked about culture. And he talked about how when they were scouring the transfer portal in the spring, that culture they were scouting the culture just as hard as they were the film, and that's one of the things we at Rollo have great culture. We are local people who are very much similar to most of the people around here too. And we strive to have a good culture and a good relationship with our clients. And I think that is something that CEOs sometimes overlook. I mean, that's essentially what Elko is these days. He's a CEO. And sometimes CEOs overlook that stuff. And he did not. He mentioned EJ Smith specifically about how they remembered scouting him, and they had did a ton of due diligence when he was a high school recruit. And so they knew he was a great kid, great culture, a great culture fit due to that. And then, he's still got a bunch of connections at Bowling Green. And our Jack, Cassius Howell, who has played a lot of defense this year, was a Bowling Green transfer that they got in the spring window. And he mentioned him specifically that I called on my people at Bowling Green and asked about how is Cassius Howell in the locker room, how is he in the classroom, all those things. So that makes me fired up that he's scouting culture just as hard as he is film. And so insurance-wise, you need to do the same thing. I mean, is your agent somebody that's actually working for you, that somebody will answer the phone when you call, versus a vendor who's just sending you an invoice and hoping you renew each year? So, that's what we're designed to do. We attack renewals. We vet that stuff just like Elko was. Elko wasn't just looking at the film going, that kid can play, let's offer. He was trying to go even deeper and say, can that kid fit in this locker room we're trying to build as well? So that's what that's what we're like here at Rollo too. We dig deeper than just, is this policy the cheapest? There you go. Good luck. It's more of a true fit. We're trying to find the perfect fit for our client. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up. I saw that on the presser this morning, and that made me super happy because I think that is something that was broken in the field house, and Elko's attacking it head on to fix it.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm reading a book right now called Grit. Psychologist went in. I'm sure y'all are shaking your head, so you've read it, heard about it. And it just proved what I've always believed, that talent's great, but talent doesn't always equate to success. And I think there's this mindset in our world that the most talented people are the people that have success. And what they found in the book is that most of the time, the most talented people are not the most successful people. A lot of times those people that are the most successful were not the most talented. They were just willing to work harder than everybody else and go through adversity and battle through things and keep going. So anyway, let's get to the breakdown. The good, bad, and the ugly is what we call it from the Florida game. For me, man, it's going to be a repeat for me. The good for me is the offensive line. I think maybe after the last couple of years of watching how brutal our offensive line was, how clueless they were once the ball snapped. Man, watching this offensive line, and they're not perfect. There's still things that I guarantee you they're watching, they're trying to fix, they're trying to correct. But you're looking at an offensive line that's given up only 1 sack through 3 games, no sacks against Florida, has rushed for over 300 yards the last 2 games, one of those against the SEC opponent on the road. In the last 3 years prior to this year, we were not even ranked in the top 70 of D1 football teams as far as least amount of tackles for losses or sacks. Right now, the way it sits right now, we're sitting 3rd in the country. So it's a huge turnaround in 3 short games. You're looking at Trey Zoon, your left tackle, was SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week this week, has had 79 snaps where it was a pass rush snap and 0 pressures on the quarterback out of 79 snaps. And so, we're averaging 263 yards a game on the ground, which is 9th in the country. The last 3 years, we've been around 130 yards a game. And I get it. We played one SEC opponent. We haven't played the Bamas. We haven't played the Auburns, the Georgias, those guys yet. But I don't care. Just this offensive line has made an absolute huge leap. And I just, that's the most exciting thing to me. And it's amazing how when that happens, everything else is starting to flow better. I have a couple clips here. I wanted to kind of give you an insight of what I'm seeing. If you go to clip 1, Seth, if you'll pull it up.
Just a second here. Is this Moose?
Yeah, but I'm not picking on Can't Get Right.
You
You can just You can just fix culture. Just tell them not to wear sleeves. That's, I mean,
Oh,
that's,
yeah, that fixes it. Yeah, the sleeves is what. Yeah, that's what's going on. All right, so stop it right. Oh, go back. I want you to stop it right after he
Long
fakes.
replay, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So he throws the what we call a now or a bubble here, but if you stop it right there, if he hands that ball off, we're running inside zone up front. You got a hat on a hat on a hat. If he decides to, and I understand why he threw it out there because this backer stayed in the box, but even if he decided not to, that kid's going to be able to cut it and run right through that center and guard and have a great gain on that. So it's just exciting to see. If you want to go to clip 2. I just love seeing guys hat on a hat, man. Nobody's washing through. So this is a wide angle here. This is what I'm talking about. It's not. We always talk about the offensive line and how they got to pick up blitzes. But it's not just the offensive line. The quarterbacks. Pause it right here for me. The quarterbacks got to see it. The running backs got to see it. The receivers got to see it. It's got to be a total team deal. The O-line always gets the heat for it. But if you look here, Reed sees pre-snap he's going to have somebody coming unblocked because you've got 6 guys and you've got 6 guys and this guy's going to release. So you really got 5 on 6 if they all come. So even if the offensive line is right and every one of them picks up a guy, you're going to have somebody come free. And that's when you have your receivers on hot routes and things of that nature. And so if you watch here, as soon as the ball snapped, he knows he's got a guy coming unblocked over on this right side. You got 3 on 2 and he's going to get it to that out quick, fast, and in a hurry, and have no problem. So you want to go ahead and run it. Yeah, you got that safety. He gets it out, and it's a positive play, just a quick out. And that's one thing about Klein's offense. He's got some flats, some outs, some quick things, so that it helps that offensive line, helps that quarterback in situations like that. So if you want to go to clip 3, this will be my last one. I love bragging on these linemen. And on this one, pause it for me for a minute. So, and Brown can talk about this probably better than I can, but you're going to have stunts where you have the tackle. On this one, the tackle's going to shoot out and the end's going to swipe in. On this one here, we got the end swiping in, the tackle swiping out, and they're just trying to switch, get the linemen confused so they can get a free, clean shot on the quarterback. And the way these offensive linemen pass it off, I think you could probably go through A&M's last 4 years, every single clip, and you couldn't find an O-line do it as well as we're doing it on game 3 in the swamp. So go ahead and watch this switch and how they pick it up. It's beautiful. Guard comes off, takes 19. Okay.
Yeah, that's a hard one too. That they mug and they use the backer around so that they're running an eat with a man stunt, the nose and the mic.
Yeah.
And so really, just going back to the days of Chris Smith, when the head coach at Birdville, who was at A&M at one point, and the ability for those guys inside, those 3 inside, center, guard, to communicate that and not let a guy go is super good, because it's a pretty decent stunt. It's not a great stunt. I think they would have been better served if that backer takes a better path, but that regardless of that, they protected the meat of the pocket, which is really hard to do if they're not communicating that. So their communication up there is obviously very good, because they're not only blocking a 300-pound guy, they're having to say out, or in, or switch. They're having to communicate that in a stadium, on the road, in the SEC, and they got it done.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I would encourage anybody listening to this, watch the O-line this week against Bowling Green and watch them pre-snap. Because it's kind of like we talked about them claims. You don't want to find out about a deductible when your house is burning to the ground. You want to know beforehand. You want to communicate before that ball snaps, so you understand if this guy does this or this guy does that, we know what we're going to do before the ball snapped. And that's been the key to me is, man, you watch down the line, man, they're just communicating, which I'll go back to what Mark said, because I got to coach with Chris as well in Carthage. And, man, it was a beautiful thing. By about halfway through the year, when them kids had it figured out, man, they'd walk up to the line and you could hear them going right to left, just boom, 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 exactly what they knew they were going to do before the ball snapped. And so that's my good, man. I just cannot brag on those guys enough, and just how fun that is to watch. So Seth, what's your good for this week?
I'm going to echo what you said, but I'll start with have them tiered. Step one, Colin Klein. This is what he was hired for.
I knew that was coming, right? That Colin Klein would be the player of the game again.
That guy, he is worth every penny. I mean, I have been, like I said, I watched film. In the last year, I was able to watch a lot of college offenses because I wasn't watching film for Harmony anymore, not coaching. And after watching lots of different offenses, I always gravitated back to Colin Klein at Kansas State. He was my favorite one to run or to watch because he did not accept not being able to run the football because you were stacking the box or whatever, where a lot of other coaches will just be like, oh, well, we got to throw it here. They got 7 in the box, or we got it. He said, no, we are going to force the issue in the run game. And this was it. You saw it right there. Now, granted, Marcel Reed's legs definitely were a part of that equation. He's going to be my TBD to be decided portion later. But when you go back and watch this film, there may have been 12 total schemes ran the whole game. So we were probably playing with a third of the playbook at max. And to go into a road and you may be thinking, well, what's your point there about that being good? He knew he has a kid making his first start, second time playing the bulk of the snaps in a road SEC game that for better or worse was being built into him. I mean, it wasn't going to be, but at the time it felt like a make or break game for Elko, right? It did. And the Elko staff, you've got a pretty tough situation. He took as much off that kid's plate as he could, and he found the balance of what can we leave on the plate for the kid to do, and I'm going to put the burden on myself to go out there and call the game appropriately and put him in a position to succeed. And that was what I was fired up about, was that they didn't overwhelm the kid, because that's one of the previous staff would just throw the kid to the dogs, right? Oh, you're in it. You should be able to execute the offense. You've been practicing just like everybody else. That was not what Coach Klein did with Marcel and the offense. And it worked. I mean, it worked out. The other thing is the forcing the issue in the run game is needed when you have a lead late. Okay. Us Aggies, somebody said, man, I wish we wouldn't let our foot off the brake. I read that online somewhere and just kept the foot on the gas. And I was like, man, there is no better foot on the gas than running it into an 8-man, 9-man box and getting first downs. That is the most foot on the gas thing you can do because it's demoralizing. You know what? I remember a time where we did keep the foot on the gas at UCLA in 2017. And it was 41-17, and we kept the foot on the gas and lost. Okay, and that could have been. And somebody did the math on Texags after that game and said it figured out at like 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. If we had just kneeled it, we'd have won the game. Done. Even if UCLA scored on like the next play, it still would have been. So the fact that you've got an OC who can figure out a way to run it into a stacked box, he can use every trick in the book. Okay, every trick in the book, misdirection, formations, motions, read game. He uses all the tools. Yeah, all the tools. And I'm going to tell you something. I watched the film, and I'd love to. I would give anything to be able to ask Coach Klein. I think he took the read game off of Marcel's plate. I don't think he wanted Marcel to have to make that. That's a lot for a quarterback. It is. You think it's easy to read, but it's fast and it's hard, and it's easy to make the wrong read often. And when I've rewatched it a bunch of times, and I am 90% sure he took the read game off of Marcel's plate, was just waiting to see the defense fast flow to a certain scheme, and then he earmarked it and said, it's time to tell Marcel to keep it on this one. And I know that I've talked to some guys who run triple option pretty up here in East Texas and did it really well. And they said when they have a young quarterback, and this was a flex bone triple option. This is like the Army-Navy offense. When they had a young quarterback who was new to the system, they did not let him read it in the first few games. They told him what to do. They said, we want to take it off his place and let him get it comfortable. And then at some point, we're going to take the training wheels off and we'll let him start reading one scheme. We'll go into like game 4 and he'll only get to read midline, but we're still going to read veer. We're still going to tell him what to do on veer. And to me, I saw that happen, and I do want it with Marcel Reed, and that made me so excited because I was like, this is not just go execute. This is not just go execute. This is I'm going to put the burden on myself to go out there and make this kid successful, give him a shot to succeed instead of just throwing to the dogs and say, well, he should have executed appropriately. And so getting those first downs on the ground, and we schemed up. How many times did we see a schemed up wide open receiver for a touchdown in the last few seasons? And we saw 2 in one game. And I know Florida's defense is terrible, yada, yada. I don't care. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. And that's why so many bad defenses would look better against us in the previous few years because there was nothing that threatened them and put them in conflict. And when you have the run game that puts them in a conflict, and now they have to have our eyes in the backfield, coverage bust happen. And that wheel route for the touchdown right after Florida got a little momentum, and we stuck it right back in, flipped it right back into our court in the second half. That was a huge thing that was set up by the run game. It was set up by motion in the run game. So that was good. And the other good is Coach Cushing. The old saying in coaching is you don't ever want to be the man that follows the man, right? Like I feel way out in front for whoever follows up Coach Surratt. I feel for him. All right, Carthage. However, stepping into the A&M O-line job, what a great setup for Coach. You know what I mean? And not only that, he's a great coach. It's obvious. It is obvious he is a great coach because if you go back and watch film, and I challenge somebody, if you listen this week, go back and just pull up the game on YouTube instead of doom scrolling one night and watch maybe 10, 20 plays and only watch the offensive line work. These guys play with absolute relentless effort and pride now, and that comes with taking on the mentality of your coach, also knowing what to do. It's very easy to shut down if you're confused and you're not 100% certain. These guys, they are like, they are out there getting after it because they know what they're supposed to do. And they also know you can see them react to when things don't go like they're drawn up, and they have a plan for it. They know what they're supposed to do. Reed Adams is one of my favorite ones. On the pull lead, several times it didn't go where it was supposed to go. He went ahead and turned up early and popped us on a few big runs. I think Reed Adams' whole offensive line is underclassmen. None of them are seniors. I'm scared Reed Adams is going to play himself into an NFL draft pick, and soon as well potentially. But hypothetically, all 5 of these guys could be back next year. And Coach Yoko said that in the press conference too. That they said they challenged the offensive line to be the culture of the team, the heart of the team, and they stepped up to the challenge. Coach Cushing, hats off. So my goods are the coaches, the offensive coaching staff, Coach Klein and Coach Cushing. Unbelievable, man.
Here's what's exciting. So you can tell it's a cultural change. Cam Dewberry was a starter last year, right? 4-star, 5-star kid coming out of high school, stud. He hadn't been playing much. If you notice, when they went ugly, he was the tight end on a couple plays, and on one of them was a 4th down run. They ran power. He blocked down, had a great block, and when they got the first down, he was the most pumped up guy on the field. And this is a kid that may be getting 5-10 snaps a game and was a starter last year. He could be sitting over there holding his helmet, with a bad attitude, whatever. So that's exciting to see for sure. So now the bad and the ugly, and for me it's tough because bad and ugly pretty close there. But for my bad is the penalties, man. Too many penalties, and self-inflicted. I can deal with a holding call, because of effort. You got beat and you just trying to hold just to help your team. But pre-snap penalties and post-play penalties after the whistle, you can't do that. We got away with it because we ran for over 300 yards and we were playing Florida. But we get Missouri at home in a couple weeks, and we have 110 yards of penalties. We're going to be in trouble. So that was my bad. Seth, what do you got?
So I'm going to use this as my TBD again, since it was a good game. I know, cop out, right? I guess I could call it the bad. He got the job done, but there's still some meat on the bone for Marcel as a passer. He's a great runner. But the passing game, and so I'm going to have both. We're going to equal it out here. I've got a screen recording of good and bad. And we'll start with the good. And the good is let me get the screen shared here, the wheel route, which I'm almost like, so as a guy who enjoys scheme and enjoys film, I follow lots of social media accounts that also, talk about this. And we showed up on a guy, there's a coach who named Dan Casey on Twitter, who always highlights really cool scheme and really good execution. And we haven't been on his Twitter feed in ages. Like it's long time. And we showed up on it this week for this very play. This is a post wheel slide that looks like inside zone. All right. And we had ran inside zone a bunch, bringing the tight end under just like this. It's setting up to look like inside zone. We switched to a pistol look, which was cool, which helps hide the ball better in the play action game. And we caught him, and this is a great route by Cyrus. But you still gotta execute it and you gotta see it. And he threw an absolute dot. And what I love about this is that this is simple. This is what I feel like the passing game over the last few years has tried to utilize the whole field on every snap. We've tried to have 5 guys as an option and a 5-man progression. This was simple. Get your eyes around, find the corner. Is the corner chasing the post? Throw the wheel. Is the corner sitting at home? Throw the post, because more than likely the post is going to have the step.
And you have the flat right here. If nothing else, you got your tight end running right here. The great check down.
So let me just talk to you from a defensive standpoint. If you go back to the snap, start of the snap. If you go back right here, pause it. So they're in cover 4 right here. The corner at the top has his butt to the sideline. He is a deep thirds, almost man type. So if this guy goes vertical, he's going to take him man. Now, the safety starts at a typical, I'm going to screw down. But while he's screwing down, his eyes are in the backfield. And that run game plays a huge difference. Because he's screwing down, they're actually going to jump to thirds. So he's going to screw down, and he's actually going to end up with this guy man-to-man because they overload it with the check down that comes from across. And so that puts him in a bind. So 2 things happen here. Number 1, the run game is exposing this safety as a spot safety. He's a spotting safety. And then the other thing is Klein is smart enough to overload it with the split flow zone look at the line, which really puts that guy. It's a double bind he puts him in. And that's what frees up the receiver. And then the third thing is, this is why I like Marcel Reed. I don't know that there's a better quarterback at moving to his left and throwing back to his right. He showed that in the bowl game last year, and he has the ability. He has a funky motion, but this is his stuff that he can do that not everybody. Wegman can't do this.
But
sorry.
you watch him when he goes through it, he gets those hips. That's his athleticism, but he's able to get those hips turned so that he can get enough on that ball to get it to him. So, yeah, I'm with you. His athleticism is unbelievable.
You can't run this play with Wegman. Wegman's going to throw the short route because he cannot make that long throw without setting up. By the time he sets up, that defensive end becomes a player in it.
Yeah,
that's his
Yeah. Camera 1 is what I really liked. It's like, to go back into quarterback coaching fundamentals, is the old adage from Coach Metzel I heard, and I've heard from other people. You got time and space, you've got to get camera 1. You got to get camera 1 there, and he did it. I mean, he didn't have a ton of time and space, but he had enough. He didn't try to flick that from across his body and threw an absolute dart. And I'll give, like, the receiver room is still not great, but this is what – so, like, the fact that they ran predominantly zone because we were gashing them in the run game is what opens up your play-action pass. We couldn't do it against Notre Dame, so they were able to predominantly stay in man. And as the run game continues to grow in its depth and attack, that's what Colin Klein can do to help. Colin Klein can't make the receivers more talented, but he can get them more open based on how his offense attacks the defense and causes the defense to start to say, enough man, we can't stop the run without more eyes in the backfield. And now you've got safety's eyes in the backfield, and you can free up some receivers. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. 9-man boxes. Cyrus's route here is really good too. It's not just he ran it very high IQ right there. He did not just go to the sideline and turn up like a lot of people who don't understand what you're trying to do to get yourself open. He stems right at that safety just a little bit to where the safety's not sure, is this going to be, what is this going to be? An out route? Just enough, and then turn the juices on. He kind of rope-a-doped him too. He attacked the safety at about 80% speed. And then when it was time to beat him, he turned it on and ran right by him. And that was good stuff. So now to talk about some of the things that have to be a little bit better when the margin of error starts to get super thin is with Marcel is he missed a touchdown here. Now, I am happy with how he threw this ball. The post route that he tried to throw to Noah off the jet sweep action, as soon as this it's kind of hard to see, but as soon as that corner's hips flipped and he still had his hands on the ball, he should have immediately threw out here because they're in a Tampa 2 look.
Yeah,
and it was you'll see the wheel route right there breaking open. Now, does Le'Veon Moss catch that? I don't know. But if he did, it would have been a walk-in touchdown. And it was just enough time for him to make that adjustment. So, and his eyes, I went back and watched the end zone. His eyes are on this corner. And when that corner started flipping those hips, it was time to come back over here because he should have known when that corner decided to commit to the post, he has 2 receivers down here at the bottom of the screen and 1 defender. And so you check it down and you either got based on where that defender is next, that's your next progression. So that's what, like, progressing things past the first and second read is something he's going to have to get better at. But that's normal for any quarterback that hasn't played much, and hasn't got a ton of first team reps. Go ahead, Mark.
And I'll say this. So it's a young quarterback. So what is it? It's Tampa 2. Whereas the first thing they talk about is your weakness in Tampa 2 is middle of the field is open. That is old school, basic level stuff. But you've got a linebacker that can run that. He can wall that receiver, and he's doing a great job. He's not open right now. The two things that are going to come open is the hole shot, which you're talking about down here by the logo, and the crossing route. Those are uncoverable in cover 2 unless that safety picks up the wheel. But even if the safety picks up the wheel, then the crossing route's there. That's the 3 progressions that you look at. And a little more mature quarterback is going to see that linebacker is walling that route really well. And he's either going to wait. He doesn't have a lot of time to wait because he's got a hot. But like you said, that crossing route's going to be there. He can throw that guy open right now, even on the cross, not even throwing it to the back.
Here's the great thing. He went for over 260 total yards, and he's still getting critiqued. How much better can that kid get? That's scary.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and there's nothing better than live bullet reps and that film right there. He's seen that same clip with Coach Klein in the room. They have gone through that till they're blue in the face. And now when he goes out to practice and he feels like maybe the coach was griping at him about, I completed it to Noah. And then once again, it's funny to listen to the press conference because Coach Elko says things. He's very transparent. Coach Elko doesn't lie very well. Or if he does, and he said something about, hey, number one thing I gripe at on my quarterbacks is making a scout team throw. When you throw the guy who you're not supposed to throw, but and he catches it anyway, and you're wondering why is Coach Elko yelling at me? Because I threw it to Noah, and Noah was covered, but I threw a good ball, and he caught it. And that play came to mind when he said that. I was like, that is a scout team throw. When they ran that play on scout team, and the linebacker robbed the wallet, and safety tried that, he still fits it in there because Noah's a better player than the scout team and completes it. And that's what he's talking about was progression-wise, and he'll get better, like you said. That's what's very exciting is that he raises our floor with his legs, and then now our ceiling goes way higher with his arm progression, his knowledge progression. Yeah.
Thank you. And that's what I'm saying. Live reps. The more this kid plays, the better he's going to be, the better this offense is going to be. I'm just going to leave it there.
All right. So now we're going to go to the ugly. And I don't mean to kick a dead dog, but it always frustrates me when field goal kickers miss kicks. You've got one job. You don't have pre-snap. You don't have motion. You don't have anything else you're thinking about. All you're thinking about is nodding your head and kicking that oblong ball in front of you. And your practice is the easiest practice out of the 85 guys on scholarship, without a doubt. And you had 2 40-yard field goals. We're not asking you to kick 65-yarders into the wind. They're 45-yard field or 40-yard field goals, and you missed both of them in the second half. If you talked earlier, Seth, about taking your foot off the pedal and something. If he makes both those, it's 39-20, and people are looking at this game differently. And so that's my ugly is just I don't understand. You missed 2 of them. 40-yard field goals should be makeable 99 out of 100 times, and you missed 2 of them. So
does he not get credit for the fact that the field conditions were terrible? I mean,
from 40 yards.
But it wasn't a great situation. If that's on turf, I think he makes both of them. I'll just say that. I'm just saying, I mean, I get what you're saying. He needs to do better. I think he will, but it was terrible conditions in the second half. They were talking about how bad the field conditions were.
Yeah, my condition was terrible watching those kicks. So, Seth, what's your ugly for this week?
Yeah, I gotta echo the kicking game. Offensively, the only thing I saw, really it's hard to be super picky. The tight end and receiver rooms are still not what I would call elite. They're getting better, and then when you run the ball, it makes everybody better. Like Trey Watson in the blocking game, he definitely doesn't. He definitely looks different than our guards and tackles does. He doesn't quite bring a huge punch. Thor, on the other hand, brings a huge punch, but he has trouble staying engaged. So, and there's upside there, especially with Thor. And Thor called a touchdown this week. I think Thor is going to slowly develop into being a real dude. Right now, I would call our tight end room just kind of like they're not a net negative, but they're also not a net positive. and our wide receiver room as well, which I think is slowly with Jabray Barber. We saw a little bit more of Jabray Barber. He looks like he could be a guy, and I can tell his snap count moved up. I think he played like 19 plays, 18 plays. Think when he gets fully game speed ready, I mean, he's typically in his second week of conditioning and running and everything because he broke his foot like right on the first day of fall camp. I mean, so he's slowly coming up to speed, and I think by the time we get to the Missouri week, we could see Jabray Barber being a snap count leader by the receiver. Right now, the wide receivers and tight ends, we got the job done. They're still not quite where I'd like to see them, and I don't know if they will get there this year. I'm hoping the scheme will help them get closer, when able to run the ball, and people thinking they can't man us up anymore. So.
All right. So now, Mark, we're going to let you do the good, the bad, and the ugly, all three for the defense. Boss, how did they look this week?
So obviously the run defense was much better. Elko challenged those guys to be better against the run. I thought they were really, really good against the run. You could definitely see in the front seven there the effort among the guys, D-line especially, and linebackers to stop the run. And that has to be a defensive mindset. And there was just a different level of urgency in stopping the run, and that made a huge difference, especially early in the game. So the run defense was much better, and we totally controlled the line of scrimmage on the D-line. And then I'm going to say it, and I'll talk about it. My prediction is always, Lee out there at corner is going to make a big play. And I think he plays so well, and I think he's our most talented secondary guy. And on the pick six, it is his great coverage on a tough route to cover from that side. He's a step slower because he doesn't know what the route is, but he makes a great play on the ball. That's a great play. And I always give him, I said, he's going to have the pick six that's going to change the game. Well, he didn't have the pick six, but he definitely caused it. So,
yes, he did. Yeah, he's played really, really well.
He's definitely he reminds me of the old school wrecking crew corners like Aaron Glenn and Kevin Smith and guys that you can just start to trust as the year goes on. Corners are going to give up plays at times, but he's a guy that you can kind of trust out there a little bit. And I think that'll fold itself into the scheme a little bit with the blitz package, having him out there. So
yeah, he's on the wide side of the field. That's
he's in man. He gets beat inside, but look at the play he makes on the ball. Like, he keeps the guy squared up, but then the guy does a good job. The receiver does a good job jab stepping him and getting to the inside, but then he makes such a great play. It's a good ball thrown. It's a good route run, and he still makes a play on the ball, and it ends up in a pick six. The safety's no help for him, and he knows that. Anything underneath 15 yards is him by himself, but he makes an unbelievable play. Look at the other guys covered here in this shot, by the way. You're man free. And when you're free man, the only job he has is to catch a big tip ball because he can't do anything else. That means your guys underneath are doing a great job. I love the job that can't think of his name, number 3, the safety who I really like. They tried to kind of rub him off right there, and he does a great job on the flat route too. That's good secondary work. This is what you show at clinics, by the way, for man free. See how he's in man on the back? Watch, they tried to rub him. Watch him get through that. If they complete that pass, it's a 1-yard gain. That's good stuff. That's good coverage. And then, like I said, but this corner down here is just putting on a clinic.
So what is your
bad on how you attack that slant? Where right there, they all, if he catches it, we're still tackling him for what is that, a 4-yard gain?
Yeah, he's got his
got that backside arm on there, turned it up. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
it is.
So what's your bad, Mark? That was good. So what's your bad?
I hate to be like what you were saying during the game because it's just such an offensive coach's mindset is the late game defense. We did not really throw the ball in the second half, and we missed 2 field goals, and the defense was asked to stop them. Now, understand, I work for Scott Surratt, and one time I remember on the freshman level, we gave up 6 points, and Scott asked me how we did defensively, and I said, well, we only gave up 1 touchdown. He goes, well, that's crap. And I was like, well, they got the ball on the 4, coach, because I don't care where they get it, you stop them. And so you got to have that mindset. So I'll say late game defense, we've got to do a better job.
I've also heard that same guy tell his defense coordinator, I don't care if they score, I don't care what they do, get me the daggum ball back.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this, you were talking about the kickers. There's a good way. Scott Surratt has learned kind of to keep the kickers at bay. Just go for it. It's an extra freaking down. And he does it from his own 25. I'm not saying that, but, you know, you want to put the pedal to the gas there, run the ball again, get a first down, make them stop you one more time. But the late game defense needs to be better. The penalties, you know, I'm going to get to this Dalton Brooks thing and the targeting, his second one. We got to teach that kid to keep his eyes up. That's it. His targeting thing has only thing to do with the crown of the helmet because he's ducking his head. I think once he solves that, he's going to be fine. He's there making plays. We've got to clean his technique up. So penalties we've got to clean up, and late game defense we got to get them up the field. We gave up a late game touchdown to Notre Dame, which cost us the game. We gave up a late game touchdown to McNeese. Do you see the pattern here? So I would say we've got to do a better job of stepping on their throat defensively at the end of games.
Well, what's really scary about Brooks, unfortunately, if he gets a third one, it's not only the one game, but he gets a full game consequence there. So hopefully he can get that corrected because I'm with you. I mean, the kid is right there making plays. You can see a huge, bright future for that kid, but we got to get his eyes up, no doubt. So what's your ugly for the game there, Mark? What's your ugly on defense?
Well, I'm going to go with the weather. The weather was ugly. Although I thought the Ags handled the break. That's always scary. I remember going over to Nacogdoches one year, and the first year we won a state championship in 2008, and we're handling them pretty good. And the freaking lights went out in Nacogdoches, and we had this like 45-minute break while electricians tried to figure out how to turn the lights on in Nacogdoches, America. And when we came back out, we came out flat. So the weather was bad. There was a delay, and the Aggies still came back out and put the pedal to the metal to them and got ahead of them early. That's a tough situation when you've lost that many games on the road, and that cloud, not the rain cloud, but the cloud of not winning a road game hangs over your head. They came back out. So the weather was ugly. I thought how we handled it was good. And then I'm just going to say Brooks's tackling technique is ugly. It reminds me of young sub-varsity guys who just, they want to tackle, but at the last minute, they don't want to see what they tackle, and they duck their head just at the last minute. It's dangerous, number one. And number two, in this crazy rule scenarios that we're in, it is actually a penalty, even whether it hurts somebody or not. They do it for the player's safety, and he's got to get that fixed. So that was the ugly.
All right, so now we're going to look at our predictions we had last week and see how we did. I predicted 24-17. So I was I guess I didn't consider the pick six. Other than that, I was pretty close there on that score. And then I picked EJ Smith as my player of the game, hopefully because of Emmett. I thought that was a good deal. And he did get some plays, had some good runs. And, man, if you heard him at the press conference, what a great young man. I mean, just what a great young man, great head on his shoulders. I don't know what football has for him for the rest of his life, but that man's going to be successful no matter what he does. So he wasn't the player of the game, but I was really impressed with that kid. So I was a little off, but we got the dub. That was the big thing, like Mark said, getting that road losing streak snapped. So, Mark, tell us about your prediction and how it worked out.
So I had 31-17 Ags. That's a 14-point differential. I had Will or Lee the third, Trey. I'm just gonna call him Trey. I don't know if they call him Trey, but they should. I said he would have the big turnover that would put the Gators to bed, and that happened. And he didn't get the pick in the pick six, but he caused the turnover that put the Gators to bed in my mind. We gave up a late game touchdown, and the point differential ended up being 13. But if we hadn't gone for two, I feel like the kicker would have made the extra point, so it would have been 14 points. So I feel pretty confident as to where we were. Again, I wish we hadn't given up 20. I don't think we should have been giving up 20 to a team that's in dire straits and they're going to fire their coach.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he'd made the extra point. We can agree to disagree on that one at this point. He has.
The weather was still good.
Yeah. Seth, what'd you have, boss?
31-24. Actually, one of the things I was happy about predicting was that we ran the ball with authority. We did do that, and the defense has trouble with some long drives. I think that the defense is not getting as much publicity because Marcel Reed has stole the show on the positive side, and us Aggies are so hungry for something positive. But it was a little concerning defensively because Florida has struggled offensively, very much so this year, and allowing them to. We still got to figure out the nickel spot. There's some issues. The secondary, you see flashes of it. That play with the pick six, flashes are there of this defense being elite. An elite Elko unit. But they're not there yet, and it's mostly stemming from the secondary. I think, as far as like, and losing Chappelle like that. I mean, it's not without its reasons. You know what I mean? Like Chappelle had the nickel spot glued down. It was taken care of, and now you got to adjust. And so there's some definite. I think they're going to cross train. Talking to some guys that I have some connections with things. They're maybe going to cross train some guys at the nickel spot. We'll see what it looks like going forward. But anyway, yeah, I think it turned out a lot like I kind of expected it to. I didn't expect Marcel Reed to have as much juice as he did. I thought it was going to be DeMoss and the. I mean, I knew the legs were there, but I didn't know he was going to be the one that stole the show, especially with that ankle breaking move late. Whenever Klein told him to keep it on the full lead play, I do think y'all saw the depth chart that comes out. I do think that we're going to see. I'm not saying anybody's fired. We're going to see a 2-quarterback system going forward. And Klein did it both years he was at Kansas State. He did it with Will Howard and Avery Johnson last year. Very, very similar situation. 2 quarterbacks, different tool sets, different skill sets, and used pretty effective, as well. So I do think we'll see that going forward for sure. And I don't know. Yeah, it ended up being a lot. It kind of went like I thought it would. I didn't like all the penalties, though. I didn't expect that to happen. You just think of an Elko team, you think they're going to be clean, and I know he's probably fuming about that too. So anyway, yeah, I think we were all pretty close. I mean, honestly, that's all pretty damn close to how that game went. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the closest, just for the record.
Oh my gosh, here we go, Mark. Okay, we'll give you that reward for the week.
Bowling Green.
All right, guys. So now we're going to break down A&M's offense against Bowling Green's defense. I'll tell you, going into it, Bowling Green is 1-1 on the year. Won their first game against Foursome. I don't even know where that's at. And then lost a tight one against Penn State in Happy Valley. And they, unfortunately for us, they had a bye week right after Penn State. So while we were at the Swamp, they were resting up and probably getting healed up from playing a Big Ten opponent. So kind of wish we'd have caught them right after Penn State. They probably had some bruises from that one. But Bowling Green bases out of a 4-down, but they will run some 3-down situationally. Through 3 games, they've given up 200 yards a game on the ground, which is really a good sign for us. Even gave up 200 yards to the first opponent, Fordham, which, like I said, I don't even know where that's at. Turnovers, they haven't produced a lot of turnovers, had 2 picks in the first game, and that's it. They've sacked the quarterback 7 times through 2 games, so they can get to the quarterback, it looks like. Linebacker Charles Roser and defensive line Anthony Hawkins lead that with 2 apiece. So probably need to keep an eye on them. I think in a game like this, I think we're going to see a lot of stunts up front from their defense. They're going to twist. They're going to try to do some stuff because talent-wise, we should be better than them. And so, sometimes you got to do some risk to reward stuff on that. And then the other thing I caught up is third down defense. They're pretty good, less than 25% conversion rate, and that's including the Penn State game. So I would expect them to, and that's usually when you're going to run most of your stunts anyways on third down. So, Seth, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I same kind of saw what you saw there. The biggest thing I think working against them is that they have not shown a proclivity to stopping the run, even against Fordham. I think they're averaging – I just looked on CFB stats. They're 120th in the nation. Averaging giving up over 200 yards rushing in their 2 games, over 5.2 yards per carry average. And I checked the Fordham game to see, well, maybe they were better against Fordham against the run, but they were not. So both Penn State and Fordham ran the ball pretty well against them, and that's not good for them. You're going into a game, if you're going to upset somebody that's way better than you, you're kind of almost hoping that they're a very pass-heavy team, because that can be like I say, teams that rely on the pass as their base part of their offense, they're not very balanced, are the ones that could tend to have the more boom or bust potential. And the teams that have the run game as the main part of their attack and have a little more balanced attack, their boom or bust potential is way lower. So that's what I like about this A&M team is the floor got raised big time with us identifying at the run, hanging our hat on the run game. So that matchup is bad for them. So I don't think they're going to be able to stop us very much. But I do think there's the potential for A&M to stop themselves, because I do think the coaching staff is going to use this as an opportunity to push Marcel's passing game prowess, his knowledge, his reads. They're probably going to come out very aggressive and let him throw the ball. And I hope what I'm hoping for is that Reed makes a huge leap in this game with that stuff. And we've got a guy now that's a true dual threat, that defensive coordinators are going to be absolutely sick of watching film on. And so if we were to come out and do that, and Marcel has some trouble early on, throws a pick or two, like you said, they create some turnovers or some big negative plays, and they can hang around. But I just don't. I would prefer us come out, run it McNeese game plan, run it down their throat, get up 14-0 early in the first, then let's go let Reed chunk it everywhere and see what he can do in the passing game. But yeah, I don't see them being able to stop us very well. I did watch a little bit. I peeked at their offense. They've got some guys on offense, and I'm going to be honest with you. I wish. I know Coach Elko's already dipped into that Bowling Green, because y'all guys know as well as I do. Bowling Green is now they're like a AAA club, so they're kind of like they're going to lose some of their best players every year. I hope he calls Bowling Green up about that tight end. That's who I want to see in Maroon next year. So maybe if that happens, I'm going to reference this next year when we're doing this thing, because he's already went and got Cassius Howell out of there, who was one of their better defensive players last year, and I think he led the MAC in sacks. So that tight end is one of my. He is a good athletic pass catching tight end. He's really, really good. Anyway, he's the guy that I'd be fearful of making some plays against us, because he had 11 catches versus Penn State for like 130 yards or something. They had trouble stopping him. So
I got you.
I don't see it going. I don't see Bowling Green being able to stop the run game, though. Essentially,
well, that's a good sign for us. That's a good sign. So, Mark, tell us what would you look at and see Bowling Green's defense versus Bowling Green's offense versus our defense.
Yeah, they're a good football team. Their quarterback's pretty good. They have a good running back. They have a good O-line. They have good receivers. Obviously, they have a great tight end. They run a pretty balanced attack. They're kind of averaging like 212 rushing and 213 passing each game, so they're extremely balanced. I thought they played really well against Penn State. They scored points. They got ahead. Where they really ran into trouble was fourth quarter. Penn State's able to get some stops and go ahead of them. And when Penn State got ahead of them, really put their quarterback under some pressure, and he made two big mistakes, threw two picks in the fourth quarter, and that really was the difference in the ball game. So obviously we've got to get them. I'm just going to sound like a coach, I guess. We got to get them in second and third and long. We're going to need more sacks. We just do not have enough sacks on the years, and we're going to need some turnovers. I think that's kind of our weaknesses. If you had to pick on our defense, we need more sacks and we need more turnovers. I think this game's going to be a lot closer than people think, but because Bowling Green is not McNeese State. This is a good mid-major, and they have some talent. These are not, like I said, they look pretty good up front. Their running back is a big, strong. I wouldn't say he's an SEC back, but he's definitely in that mold. Their receivers are good. They can get open and they can make catches. But they're a bowl team from last year, and they gave Penn State everything they wanted. Probably should have beaten Penn State. If not for the two picks, if they could just do what they had done the first three quarters, gone down the field and scored a touchdown, I think they beat Penn State. So it's going to be a challenge. Again, stop the run, get some turnovers, get them off the field, let the offense score. If you get up on them in the environment of Kyle Field, they're going to that pressure seems to get to them. It's like this. Bowling Green's a good team. They're probably still questioning whether they can win at a big program. If they beat Penn State, they'd be very scary right now, because then they have that confidence. But if we can keep those question marks around till late in the game, get them off the field, hold them down, and our offense go do its thing, keep the ball away from them. We get up on them. I think that'll expose their weaknesses and the differences in the two programs.
All right. Well, now it's time for our prediction time, guys. And so I've got my prediction. I agree with Mark. I think it's going to be closer than people probably think. I think the people that have not taken a look at Bowling Green probably do compare him to a McNeese, and I think there's a huge difference between McNeese and Bowling Green. I agree with you, both of y'all on that. So I'm going 35-21. I think we're going to score some points. I think we can run the ball. But I do think they have that balanced offense Mark talked about and that tight end that Seth brought up. So I think, they're going to give us some challenges offensively for sure. Their offense versus our defense for sure. I think my player of the game prediction, I'm gonna pull one from Seth. I'm gonna go with Terry Bussey. I think Bussey's gonna bust one. Long one again, and I think he's going to have a big game on Saturday. And so that's my prediction. Mark, what you got?
I got the Ags winning, just like you, kind of in that same mode, about 34-24. I think again, it's going to be close. So I really feel like the offense has got to score early. If they score early and they keep us out of playing from behind, I think, we'll probably give up a late touchdown. I think, you start to see the personality of a team, and until we change that up, that's who I think we are. We're going to give up a touchdown late. But the game will be close throughout. I think the Ags will pull away. I think that's what teams that with more talent at home, I think that's what they do. I don't think Penn State did that as well as they'd like to do because they had to play from behind much of the game. But if the Ags can get up early, I think we win this by 10 or more. We just need to stop their run game, force their quarterback into being a passing guy. That'll allow Elko to get after them a little bit, and hopefully that'll lead to turnovers. And I'm going to stick with my player of the game, lead the third, Trey. I'm going to call him Trey because he's my guy. He's going to make a big play. I'm going to give him his pick six again. I'm just going to keep picking it till I hit it. It's kind of like playing the lottery. He's going to have a pick six, and we'll be talking about the wrecking crew being back and Kyle Field to go crazy. And this will be a big win for us heading into the Arkansas game.
Man, I'm starting to believe if Lee the Third reached out to Rollo and Carthage, there might be a NIL deal for that guy. Mark seems to be a big fan of that guy, which I am too, but that's Mark's boy. So, Seth, who you got?
I'm going to go a little more bullish in my prediction because I think one of the things I just checked earlier today, I didn't even know what time we played. We play at 6:30. I think if we played at 11, I would be a little more bearish. But I think we're going to probably win. I'm gonna settle. I'm gonna split the difference. I'm gonna go 45-17. But I wouldn't be shocked if halftime score is 21-10. You know what I mean? Like in that type of range, and then it just manages to fill out the way where you wind up with a blowout victory, but doesn't feel like one for 2/3 of the game necessarily. And but I really, like y'all said, I really want us to get out 14-0 and just. I don't care what the final score is because I want to see Marcel Reed get that ability to be able to throw the ball down the field more, work his progressions and things, and get that stuff on film because there's no better teacher than getting yourself on film and then sitting down with the coach on Sunday and looking at all that stuff. And like we mentioned, I'm sure it's hard in scout team. They can't recreate that, and he'll make some throws. And in his mind, he's like, I completed that, but coach is yelling at me. Well, now you know. Now you know why he's yelling at you about throwing it there because that's not going to be there on Saturdays. So I'm excited about seeing that. I will say I think my player of the game. I forgot to say this last week, and I think I'm going to go with it again. My player of the game is going to be he was my pick last week. He didn't do it, but Nick Scorton. I'm going to say at some point he's going to come out and so this is the type of game a guy like him can do that because if A&M does jump out early, they're probably going to feel the pressure to throw the ball a lot, and then Scorton's going to get to really pin his ears back. And man, he's been close. If you go back and watch, he probably, if things had broke his way, he would already have 2 sacks on the season. I think one of the tackles he made, the guy fell across the line of scrimmage, so it don't count as a sack. And he got held one time, relentlessly held. They called it, but he would have sacked the quarterback again. So I think he's going to get through and get him a sack or 2 in this game. And I bet there's going to be some type of sack fumble. So that's what I'm banking on is he's going to cause a big play on defense where everybody's going to go, that's the dude we got in the offseason right there. And so, yeah, that's my thing. One of the things I do like your Terry Bussey pick, though, because yes, last week I was super fired up to see him not being used. He got used outside of the jet sweep. If you remember, they motioned him into the backfield and just handed him the ball, and he went and ran for 9 yards and got a first down. Really tough run. Like, I mean, we talking about 8 of those yards came after contacts, like top run. And seeing him use him in more spaces, he's a powder keg, man. The more times he touches the ball, the more likely we are to see him running past everybody. And so that's a good pick. I'm kind of jealous of your pick, but I'm gonna stick with Scorton because I think he's gonna have a day soon where we're gonna be like, there it is. That's the guy we knew. You know, that's the hype. The hype behind him real. Because I saw a mock draft come out the other day, and even two games in without his sack, the mock draft I saw on Twitter had him 17th overall pick in the draft. So the guys who are watching film and doing that type of stuff still haven't seen anything to scare them off from thinking this guy's the real deal when it comes to rushing the passer and playing off that edge. So Nick Scorton is my pick for player of the game, 45-17 final score. I do want to say, for those of you that want the full version of our theme song that was created via artificial you can email me and I'll send it to you. The version gibberish, the computer sings English gibberish. It was wild. So yes, our theme song was not. Somebody called me and said, "Did you sing that theme song and like auto tune your stuff?" No, I did not. It was artificial intelligence driven. I was looking for something because we had some issues with our editor last week, and the music on another editor wasn't available. So I went to an AI music generator, typed in our podcast description, thinking it would make lyrics up, and instead it just literally sang the description word for word. And I laughed so hard at about 1 a.m. on Tuesday night, I was like, everybody else is gonna have to hear this too. I'm putting it on there. So anyway, that's how the podcast. And I think it's gonna stick. It's gonna be our deal from now on.
Well, so going back to Nick Scorton just real quick before I got something else I got to do, and we'll cut everybody loose. But man, I heard an interview with him the other day, and how awesome would that be for him to get those sacks and get that first round draft? I mean, a kid that went off and came back home and getting all this local support. That's just a cool story. So listen, guys, if you're on my Facebook, the Rollo Hallsville Insurance Facebook page last week, you saw that I did a giveaway where if you listened to the podcast and commented below and shared the podcast, you could comment your score prediction and what my score prediction was and enter a drawing for a $50 gift card to Texas Roadhouse. So I'm going to do that now. I've got all the names in here. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to do the same thing this week. We're going to have to cut back because Bidenomics is killing me. But we're going to do a $25 gift card this week, and we're going to do it to Bubba's. We're going to try to do a restaurant that maybe is in everybody's town. So if you share or comment or whatever, it doesn't matter if you're in Carthage or Gilmer or wherever, you can go wherever you want to. So and the winner this week, and I can't remember everybody's prediction, but the winner this week is going to be the illustrious Mayor Jesse Casey, who is a big Longhorn fan, graduated from there, but he did comment and share, so I appreciate that. So Mr. Casey, I'll get you that gift card if you're listening. And this is Trace Amigos pregame or pregame Bowling Green. Hope y'all tuned in and enjoyed it. And Trace Amigos
quarterback controversy for the Longhorns, not just A&M, baby.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll holler at you later.
Tracy Amigos, former football coaches turned insurance agents, talk about Texas Aggie football.